All right, so JP Morgan is about to buy $1 billion worth of real estate.
Wow.
And they're not even going to put it out for you to buy. You're going to have to rent it. Listen, we got to break this down because if JP Morgan is buying houses, I can tell you, you probably need to be buying a house too. Let's go through it. Stay tuned. All right, so I don't know if you've read the latest news on Bloomberg and Business Insider, but JP Morgan Chase, they just bought $1 billion worth of real estate that is built to rent. It's a build to rent situation, so it's not going to be something that's going to be out on the open market for the first time home buyer. No. This is going to be a series of rentals forever. Presumably. And you know what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen It's a Wonderful Life?
You're right.
Who hasn't seen that movie? Pottersville, George Bailey. Every time a bell rings, you know how it goes.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Well, Pottersville is exactly what this is.
These families have children.
Not my children.
But they're somebody's children, Mr. Potter.
Are you running a business or a charity war?
Well, all I'm
Not with my money.
Now, I'm not saying that JP Morgan is going to be like a slumlord or anything like what was portrayed in that movie. JP Morgan and Haven Realty Capital. So they're venture capitalists, right? So they have a crap ton of money and they invested in things. Sometimes it benefits us as, everyday Americans. Sometimes it doesn't exactly benefit us. And this is another one of those scenarios. So according to Business Insider, this article that I'm referencing, and there's a bunch of them out there. Just do a simple Google search and you'll see it out there. JP Morgan and Haven Realty Co. and what they're about to do. But I'm going to go through it for you. Save you a Google search. Let's go through this. So they're about to invest $1 billion in these planned urban developments. And they're starting with the Sun Belt. So the Sun Belt being basically like the southern part of the United States. Georgia is where they're starting. And then I think they've got Texas and Arizona, maybe some in Florida kind of on their radar. Not to mention the fact that any other venture capital company like JP Morgan is probably got all eyes on this situation to see how profitable it is because they want to make money too. I'm not against anybody making money, especially if you're an investor in JP Morgan. However, when it comes at the cost of you guys buying a property, absolutely all day I'm going to make sure I'm firing off the alarm bells and saying, get in the market because they're about to take up all the first-time home buyer homes and make them all rentals. There's absolutely no indication in any of these articles that I've read that has said that they have a strategy to put them back on the open market. So all this information is not to have you living in fear of like, oh gosh, I want you to be empowered. Again, as a woman of faith, I'm always advocating we do not live in a spirit of fear. That is not something that comes from God. I want you on offense, and that is absolutely what you need to be doing when you reach out to me and say, okay, I need to get into the market. I'm going to go on offense. I'm going to get into the housing market. I'm going to go ahead and buy a house. It does not have to be your forever house first time out. It probably won't have everything on your checklist, but you'll be in the real estate market, and that's what matters. So in the article itself, Thomas Pazorski, I don't know, he's a ski like me, so I'm just going to take a stab at his last name, says that the build-to-rent model is more efficient than the traditional model of selling each newly built home to separate private individual buyers. Well, excuse me, sir, who is it more efficient for? You as the investor, of course, not for the first-time home buyer.
Oh, come on!
He goes on to say that the build-to-rent trend is a useful response to the market's needs. So that means that instead of trying to build houses for all y'all to buy, they're just going to build them for you to rent. Does that sound like it's in your best interest or theirs?
Oh, no way.
Back to what they're going to do. So they're going to do these planned urban development communities that are 100% built for renters only, which sounds ideal when you can't find a house because you're losing it to investors that are buying up property. Do you ever think that somebody like JP Morgan or another venture capital investment group like this is going to say, we're done making money on all these rentals. Let's just put these out onto the open market and let's let Joe and Jane Buyer go ahead and have their opportunity to buy that house. Do you really think that's going to happen? I can tell you absolutely not.
Yep, for sure.
They will sell it to another investment corporation, thereby leaving you, our everyday buyer, who is just trying to get into the real estate market, completely out of it. And not just out of it for a few years, out of it for a very long time. Now, I don't know where you're watching this. Presumably you're in California, that's where I'm at. But if you're in another state where this is potentially already started, if you're in Georgia, if you're in Arizona, they've got eyes on you. They're already going forward with it in Georgia. In Georgia, it's supposed to be on market and viable come the first quarter of 2023, which we have just entered into 2023. So all eyes on Georgia, right? Right outside of Atlanta, I believe. So I want to hear from you. What do you think of this situation with JP Morgan and this Haven Realty Corp, and they're buying all these houses? What do you think of that? You're the everyday buyer. You're the one that is watching this channel to learn about buying real estate. Right now it's in California, but if you're watching this in Georgia, tell me down below what you think of this. So as somebody that's in the industry, I see that as being a huge chunk of houses that are no longer going to be available for you. That is infuriating, heartbreaking, and alarm bells going off all over the place. What that also tells me, and what it should also tell you, is that if somebody like JP Morgan and probably some of these other larger hedge fund corporations are starting to not be fazed by all of the market volatility, neither should you. Because the reason they're doing this is because they know that you buy real estate and wait. You don't wait to buy real estate. So they don't care about the market. They're on offense, which is what I'm constantly trying to advocate for you guys out there. Get on offense, get in the market. And let's take a minute to think about what kind of build that is. Do you think this is gonna be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home with all kinds of upgrades and granite countertops and super fancy, laundry room fixtures and all of that type of thing? I can tell you probably not. The chances of this being a low grade build, they're not gonna put a lot of money into the build. They're gonna get the money off of you guys as the renter. So later on in the article, further down in the article, John Burns, this housing expert, goes on to say this, that he has cautioned developers against going all in on the build to rent because it can take a long time to bring those communities to market. And he also goes on to say, we're still very bullish overall, but not everything's gonna work out. So what that means, being bullish, that means they're on offense. I am not bringing this with this fear and trepidation for you guys to absorb and watch and to be like, what the heck is she talking about? Scaring us, because that's not how I roll.
What is she talking about?
I am bringing this to you because if they're gonna do it in Georgia, and they're gonna do it in Arizona, and they're gonna do it in Texas, California being probably one of the last on the list because it's kind of expensive here. If you are somebody that is looking to get into the real estate market, now is when you need to reach out to me right here. You send me an email, you say, Angel, we need to get qualified because I think that you are missing out on an opportunity to get into this market because if people like JP Morgan and other hedge funds are not worried about what's going on, then I cannot say it enough. Don't be worried. Just get into the market. Let's get you into something sooner rather than later. It may not hit everything on your checklist, but you're still in the real estate market and you're on offense versus being on defense and being a renter. What does that mean for you? That means that you and I need to start this process soon. We need to have the conversation that you say, Angel, I'm ready. I'm ready to start figuring out what I need to do to get qualified, what I can afford. We're ready to relocate to Bakersfield and we're ready to start owning a home versus being a renter. Do not wait to call, text, email me. If you want to look at houses yourself, go to my website, mybakersfieldrealtor.com. You can see the houses for yourself. They're on there for you to look at. So you can see look at that. I can actually buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a 4-bedroom, 2.5, and I'm not breaking the bank, and I can work remotely. All of it. You guys can do it, I promise you. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll see you around town.